Is hashtag open to work trending on social media? How many people do you know in automotive logistics that are currently searching for their next job? Can I interest you in a video resume? Aaron Clark has 20 years experience in finished vehicle logistics, from operations to rail, intermodal, purchasing, and network analysis. Aaron has a lot to offer growing 3PL business. So please say hello, make new friends, grow your network, and learn from the best on ATI number 1, ATI Auto Business. Hey, what's up, ecosystem? Welcome back to ATI Auto Business, Automotive Ecosystem, where everyone learns more about the automotive industry. Let's get started with top industry news and headlines that include BYD has a super fast EV charger, Ford is stockpiling parts, and the tariff cross-border Borker math is murky at best. Should be cross-border. All right, at the quarter hour, OpenToWork in 3PL, featuring Aaron Clark, 20 years experience in finished vehicle logistics. He's our feature guest. So what we're doing here is, this is show 390 on Automotive Ecosystem on ATI Auto Business. And, I'm seeing OpenToWork a lot more on LinkedIn, and I wonder if it's actually going to continue to grow. So we have Aaron Clark. This is our first OpenToWork in 3PL show on ATI. It should be pretty interesting. We're going to learn. We're going to network. We're going to talk. We're going to look at his resume. That's Aaron Clark's resume. We got Aaron Clark's LinkedIn experience. And in fact, he was sharing this with me. One of the things he also has done in his time is help educate folks on the massive business of OEM logistics. So we're going to talk more about that. I say get to know your ecosystem. This is a great way to do that. Also, we're looking for, possible opportunities. We're going to be talking about some of the news. Also, hey, 925 just signed up as an ATI YouTube channel member. Thanks, 925. Oh, I don't even have the bell handy anymore, so that's okay. Ecosystems neutral zone, because the golden age is here. And so are the tariffs. They're going to be huge. Automotive Ecosystem is Tuesday nights. Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Central Time. Last week we had, what's your video process? Right? If you're shooting video, do you have an intentional process? If you don't, my guess is you will stop shooting video. You've got to have a process. Everything requires a process. Maybe you've documented it. Maybe it's all in your head. Maybe now you'll think about documenting it. What is your video process? I just want to point out, if you go to YouTube and you watch what's the ROI of your video marketing, if you jump into the 15-minute mark, there is 20 minutes of solid information. And in fact, you can learn more about trade pending. Matthew was like, man, I don't want to make this a commercial. I'm like, man, it's information. It's interesting. On Thursday on Industry Logistics, we also learned about Pink Cheetah Express versus TQL. Personally, I thought this would be a bigger topic. Why is a carrier suing a broker the size of TQL? And, is that going to work? God, that sounds expensive. What could it possibly be about? Well, it is about regulations. And we get into those pesky regulations. I know nobody wants to talk about the regulations. Dang liberals. Okay, let's do some news. 5 minutes after. Thanks, Mark. Party of one. All right, so BYD unveils faster charging EV platform that powers 249 miles of range in 5 minutes. I read that headline. I thought, now that sounds like headline news. 5-minute charging? No way. No more waiting in lines forever? BYD, oh no, it's Chinese. launched an upgraded platform for EV with a 1,000-volt architecture that said it could charge EVs as fast as pumping gas. What? The EV giant, which has become known for upending cost norms and operating protocols in the auto industry, said it aims to build more than 4,000 ultra-fast charging piles or units to make the technology available nationwide. In the U.S.? BYD didn't specify the time frame or how much it would invest to build such facilities. Vehicles powered by the Super E platform will peak charging speeds of 1,000 watts, a kilowatt, can travel 400 kilometers, that's 250 miles, on a 5-minute charge. Man, it all sounds amazing! Except, it's not local. Let's see here. How does it stack up? Can't be better than Tesla. BYD, kilometers, 80 kilometers per minute of charging. Tesla's 18. Oh, bad. 400 kilometers in 5 minutes. Tesla 275 kilometers in 15 minutes. Oh, no. Better get your chainsaws. Is it safe? For super fast charging, there may be some impact to the safety of a battery and its lifetime durability. Older batteries may not be suited to such quick charging. Large charging currents can lead to severe overheating. But you know, we never worried about charging safety before. Anyways, BYD also has the largest cargo ship for vehicles. This was announced in January. The 219-meter long BYD Shenzhen can hold up to 9,200 cars. It's the 4th car carrier ship, so that they're going to go up to a total of 8 of these ships by 2026 and just park them off every Gulf of America. Oh, hey, remember the suicide nets? Yeah, that's Foxconn, and they're almost at a deal with either Honda or Nissan after their talks didn't work out. So, you know, just ignore all those safety issues. Speaking of vessel shipping, arrival of the world's largest car carrier marks Texas port's gateway strategy. Volkswagen is calling Freeport, Texas, a key import gateway. World's largest car carrier, capacity of 9,100 vehicles. It is one of a series of multi-fuel pure car and truck carrier vessels. The vessel's arrival was made possible by the Freeport Harbor Channel Improvement Project, which has enhanced the port's capabilities by deepening and widening the channel. This infrastructure upgrade has improved navigational safety and enabled the port to accommodate larger vessels like the Hogue Aurora. It's great news. In 2024, Freeport handled 162,000 plus vehicles, signed an agreement with Volkswagen. To import vehicles. Oh no. Don't say import with tariffs around. VW, Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, Porsche. You know, Newsweek ran an article, Donald Trump's tariff threat could devastate Texas. Stinking liberals. Batten down the hatchets is what they're saying. Ford is stockpiling parts, telling suppliers to keep shipping amid tariffs. Just keep it going. Move, 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 move. Ford Motor Company is stockpiling parts that comply with the U.S. Mexico-Canada agreement, reassessing cross-border operations and telling suppliers to keep shipping under existing contract terms as it weighs the impact of tariffs right around the corner. That's the latest word from the automaker to its parts producers as the industry grapples with 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. That was imposed, who cares? And looming 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico set to hit April 2nd. File it under who cares. The automaker is strategically stockpiling components where it is cost effective and parts that are... You'd seem like we're preparing for a war, but it's Trump. It's fine. S&P Global says auto industry has 1 week before massive production halt due to tariffs. Can't be true. S&P Global Mobility said the ongoing global tariff war now puts the probability of the auto industry experiencing an extended disruption period at a startling 50%. Fake news. That would mean several vehicle models will cease production. New vehicle prices would have to rise. Product development delays could impact production for some years to come. Nah. In fact, S&P Global gives the industry 1 week before production starts dropping off at a whopping 20,000 vehicles a day. Although some contend that tariffs on the auto industry may boost U.S. manufacturing, only GM, Ford, Stellantis have excess capacity to increase U.S. production. Automakers not likely to be able to make such a change quickly. And S&P Global Mobility rates the chance of a quick resolution scenario to tariffs at a mere 30% likelihood. Joe Biden. Given that most car makers and their suppliers will invest capital only if there's long-term stability in the trade and planning environment, the ongoing uncertainty may delay development of future vehicle programs, especially with uncertainty around emissions. Nah, everything's fine. Go get some more eggs. Tariffs. New Nissan leadership add to uncertain future of Mexico assembly plant. Honda's going to buy hybrid batteries from Toyota's North Carolina complex as a tariff workaround. That's a headline? You're gonna publish a headline about a workaround? That's weird. Japan's Nikkei news service said Honda will take in Toyota's U.S.-made batteries for about 400,000 vehicles, which will be enough for all of its hybrid cars it sells in the U.S. starting in fiscal 2025. Plus, with demand down, that may supply next 2 years. Hey, here's why Trump's tariffs plan won't lead to reshoring. What the president right now is doing, both domestically and internationally, is sending a signal that there is not stability, you think? People don't invest in instability. It's the reason that a lot of money doesn't pour into third world countries. Because they have no idea what's going to happen next. And if that's the operating environment and that business have to look at, they're going to put the brakes on it. You're not going to see domestic investment that Trump has talked about, and you're not going to see the jobs that he has talked about, and you're going to see inflation. That's likely the reason automakers with assembly plants in Canada aren't going to make any snap decisions. What snap decision would you make? Flag on. It's all audibles now. As auto parts cross borders, air is a bookkeeping nightmare. Okay. So there may be no better way to illustrate the... Let's take a look at it. All right, let's go to the map. Here we go. Yeah, I got a map. All right, so tariffs could be assessed multiple times for parts that cross borders more than once. Here's what the tariff journey might look like for a piston. This is just a piston. Okay, so the piston starts in northern Canada, makes it down to southern Canada, and hops over to Michigan. Now it goes back into Canada, and from Canada drops down into Mexico, and from Mexico goes into the U.S. So, you got raw aluminum from Quebec, that's melted and cast in Toronto, crosses the border for machining and finishing in Detroit. Following machining and finishing, it's sent back to Ontario for engine installation. Then it's going to cross the border again and head down to Mexico. Then it's going to head back up to the U.S. for delivery to a dealership after it's been assembled at the plant in Mexico. So yeah, no, that's pretty straightforward. That'll be easy. 25%, 10%. Follow the news, 50%, who knows? Spin the percent. Jack Hooper. Now, I've been wanting to talk about... I'm going to talk about Jack Hooper and pre-owned auto logistics for a second. And rumor has it that both of these things, obviously, have been in the works for a while. It takes a while to plan these things. But Jack Hooper shutting down, we got the news this year, but it doesn't seem to be completely new news. Although, we're going to hit some new news. Anyways, and you saw that there were senators demanding that Ford explain Jack Hooper contract cancellation. You know, that did seem pretty sudden. Well, there are now laid off workers filing class action against Jack Hooper. To make matters even worse for Jack Hooper, they might be in violation of the WARN Act. This class action complaint brought under the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, the WARN Act, which is, okay, so over the last 90 days, upon information and belief, the defendants abruptly terminated thousands of employees nationwide, unilaterally and without proper notice. Terminating over 50 employees, at least 33% of active full employees, not providing 60 days advance written notice. See, and if they had... You know, then they maybe it wouldn't, you know, they were trying to make it work with GM and Ford. If they had notified of termination, then that definitely, allegedly wouldn't have worked out. Oh, man. Defendants run a nationwide truck and logistics operation, employing over 2,500 employees. Michigan, Ohio, Missouri, Minnesota, Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee. Hashtag OpenToWork. On or about February 8th, defendants informed thousands of employees. I mean, that was last minute. So, now, in concordance, I don't know, concurrently, simultaneously, last year we had heard that Proficient went public to acquire 5 logistics firms, which, have they fully combined? Are they still operating independently? Delta, Deluxe, Sierra, Proficient, Tribeca, and then they added a 6th? with Auto Transport Group in Utah. So there's 6 of them. The thing is, and I did a video about, buy the stock, check it out. But there was this little hiccup on October 16th. You could see it. You could call it a cliff. It's not the biggest cliff. You'd survive that stumble. But why? What is that cliff? Well, on October 16th, Proficient Auto Logistics provided an update and expected operating financial metrics for their third quarter fiscal 2024. So within that report, there was something, which a month later, we see Levi and Korsinski announces an investigation on behalf of Proficient Auto Logistics shareholders who may have been affected by fraud. I am reading. This was in November. Levi and Korsinski notifies investors that it has commenced an investigation of Proficient Auto Logistics concerning possible violations of federal securities laws. They issued a report. Okay, we went over that October 16th. Company stated they estimated revenue for the third quarter to be in a range of 90 to 92 million, reflecting a decrease of 14 to 16% relative to the combined revenue of the third quarter 2023. So, rumor has it, there's a question of trucks versus employees and operations. Shareholder rights law firm, this is another one in November, Johnson Fissel, announced an investigation of executive officers and others have violated securities laws. Now, I am not here to mix up the mud. I've just been tipped off that this is something to look at. Here's another one in December. Bragar Eagle and Squire PC is announcing an investigation. And yet another in December, Robbins LLP is investigating the officers. Now, I know that, everybody's willing to quote scripture and verse about this and that, so turnabout is fair play, I suppose. I don't know what this is all about. But I do know that the auto service industry is looking for more service techs. So if you're really good with your hands and tools, and you're worried about what is going on next, maybe look into some service tech work, I'm not sure. But ATI is where everyone learns more about the automotive industry, whether we want to or not. Hey, it's 925, my newest member. What's going on, 925? Newest member of ATI Auto Business YouTube channel. And we're going to move into our feature interview segment. Yes, I say get to know your ecosystem, new, used, auction, logistics, remarketing, recon, compliance, and tech. I don't have one of my what are you talking abouts set up, but I will say this. Over the years, I've worked really hard to create a platform where we can all learn and share. If it's really all about relationships and community, my goal was to create a channel where we can learn and share. And I don't know how that's going. I'm not sure what happened to the community and the learning and the sharing and all that. I think money and politics might have got in the way. But I don't ship cars, I move information. I'll keep doing it for a little bit. I got a podcast, if you dare. You can go to atiautobusiness.com. You can contact me. Let's go ahead and see what Aaron has to say. Please do me a favor. Stick around right after this. We're going to be live with Aaron Clark, 20 years experienced in finished vehicle logistics. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Are you completely stressed out from all the calls and the contracts and the verifications of loads where nobody ever answers the phone? Call Murphy Auto Dispatch Services today. Murphy Auto Dispatch Services has over 15 years in the transport industry. We are your office while you are on the road. We book, we verify, and we bill out your loads for you. We have an excellent accounting staff and an even better dispatch team. Give us a call today at 417-273-0021, or if you want to email me, it's murphyautotransport31@yahoo.com. Give us a call today.
Transport Auto Quoter is by far the leading auto quoting software on the market, and the only auto quoter with a pro version that comes preset with accurate pricing for anywhere in the U.S. So you don't have to worry about it. The best part is that no change with your current software is needed. Just plug TAQ in and start booking jobs. Carriers can easily plug TAQ into their current websites and start making money right away. I bet you're wondering how we do this instantly and accurately 24/7. Well, constant analytics is the key. Our Price Watch team is constantly monitoring current market conditions, paying close attention to seasonal and quick-moving industry changes. At the end of the day, it takes a lot of time and data to maintain good pricing, time that most of us just don't have on a daily basis. So free yourself up. Using TAQ Pro is really a no-brainer. Save time and money, maximizing your leads and optimizing your online investments. You'll finally be able to sleep well at night knowing that TAQ is on the job selling for you 24/7. Never missing a potential job.
Don't lose any more sleep worrying about missing leads. Get Transport Auto Quoter to quote the right price the first time, every time. Run your business with TAQ. Visit transportautoquoter.com. Links are in the live chat. All right, here we go. Please do help me wish a warm welcome to Aaron Clark, 20 years experience in finished vehicle logistics. How you doing, Aaron?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for joining me. I like to start with like full disclosure. How did we get here? You messaged me through LinkedIn.
I did. Yep.
Do you remember what you said?
I just said, hey, I'm looking for work right now, and I'd like to, if possible, be on your show or talk to you or something of that nature, and literally just get my name out there. And that led us to today. And you contacted me and said, hey, I normally don't do this, but I think I put something quirky or funny in my message, and you thought, what the heck, I'll give you a call. So
that's right. I called you immediately.
Yep.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't. Your message was right on. All right. Before we continue talking about the message, please introduce yourself. Say hello.
Hi. Yep. I'm Aaron Clark. I've worked in finished vehicle logistics for 20 plus years. I've worked for some of the big, the big shooters in the industry. I've worked for General Motors. I've worked for Union Pacific Railroad at one point. I've worked for UPS Autogistics. Most recently, I worked for a smaller company called Rubicon. I've worked in intermodal as well for a company called ITS Con Global. So I've also worked for the Canadian National Railroad as a rail conductor. So I've been kind of all over the place. I don't know how in depth you want me to go at this point. I mean, I can continue, or I don't know if you.
All right, we'll go a little further in depth. Good intro. And by the way, you have a master's degree too. I mean, the thing is that you have the education, you have the years of experience, you've worked in a lot of different roles. So yeah, we'll be getting into that. But I mean, it's an impressive resume. But that isn't why I picked up the phone. It was your message of, you were. I've already seen several OpenToWorks, but it was just you just seemed like a down to earth. Hey, if you got time for a conversation kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really liked that approach.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. I said, give me a call, and
you said finished vehicle logistics. This is one of the things, and I think I'm going to go to camera one here, is that I think that it's kind of like the finished vehicle logistics, automotive logistics conference. People, I think, really do want to learn more about the OEM side of finished vehicle logistics, and it's tougher to penetrate as just an incomer. And we're going to talk about the difference between OEM logistics and like the POV mom and pop shipping, that when you come into, let's say you stumble into auto logistics from the carrier side or even the broker side, it's more of the used car onesie, twosie, and you kind of figure out that there's fleet business.
Yep.
But from your side, it's all fleet business. right? That's the big business. That's where you want to
It's
be.
the big business. Yep,
Yeah.
it's the auto manufacturers. It's either shipping from a plant or a railhead, or a port, something like that. Yep, yep.
I know that from time to time, I've got some friends that work in finished vehicle logistics. This is also a harder group to get on camera. I don't know if it's because things change so much. Why would it be so hard to get finished vehicle logistics professionals to talk? Is that a harder arena? What's that like?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't really know. I know that it's it's probably not as big of a group. I think it's kind of specialized. Once you're in finished vehicle logistics, you're kind of stuck. It doesn't matter. And what's funny is, if you know the business, you kind of know the business. I've known people that have jumped from truck to rail to, done different things. Worked for the auto manufacturers, and then worked for a 3PL, and it's kind of just it's a unique skill set. It's not, I don't think it's as big as the parts, shipping parts, or shipping, other, other goods. It's not like that. It's very specialized. So I don't think there's as many of us around.
I'm going to guess that. So on the OEM side, you probably have more, and it's probably some of the legal. There's probably a lot more legal hurdles or more at stake on the OEM side, and therefore, if somebody were to say something that then either changed or was wrong, it could trigger a lawsuit. I think what I'm getting at is, like, if I go to a finished vehicle logistics show, I can see people on stage talking.
Yeah.
But rarely are there in-depth conversations beyond the stage. You see it at a show, but you have to go to the show to see it. You can't really get it on demand that much. And even, kudos to, are you very familiar with the Automotive Logistics Media website? The group out of the UK.
No.
They do a great job. They're really in-depth articles.
Okay.
But again, I'm sure that they have to also manage. You've got global logistics dealing with a lot of money and some legal regulations, especially today. Can you imagine what happens if somebody were to go on camera, on the record today, facing down a tariff, not knowing what's going to happen? I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that brings up another good point too. And that kind of just jogged my, thought here, that when for rail and for truck, so let's say you're operating as a railroad in the United States, and you've got all the different manufacturers. You've got Ford, GM, Chrysler, then you've got the Japanese companies, and you've got the Europeans. Every single one of those contracts is negotiated separately. So you're probably right in a more ways than one. Everybody has their own unique contractual agreements with each, not only with the railroads, but with each trucking company, each, yard manager. So there might be 4 different automotives shipping into one rail location. They'll have 4 different contracts with possibly the same truck carrier. So you're right. That's probably a big, hurdle where somebody probably would not want to be as open and outwardly, talk about what they have going on at each location, because it's probably a different agreement than they have with other folks at the same location. That's just the way, that's the nature of the business. That's the way it is everywhere.
I'm going to ask you about the process of getting up to speed on all that in a second, but I will add that Toyota Logistics is one of the few companies I see they will share that we're having a meeting with so-and-so today. We're meeting with so-and-so today on Certus and Run Buggy and maybe USAL and company after company. And I'm always thinking, wow, you rarely see that. I think it's neat that they do that. But I also wonder, are each one of those negotiations, do they have their own separate tweak to them? What's that?
They all have their own separate tweak. Yep. It's different rates. It could be different services. It could be different, whatever those agreements are. Each company negotiates separately. Very, very rarely. Like there's only a couple of locations that I can even think of in the vehicle logistics network where they'll ship they'll ship the different manufacturers products on the same rail cars, and so they negotiate. Everybody has their own cost per unit that they ship on each rail car, and it's literally like in like Vancouver, just because they get so few vehicles that ship into that location, and like Halifax, I think might be the other one. But yeah, that just doesn't exist because uh, the way that they operate is they kind of keep things separate so that they can have their own, unique agreements with each manufacturer. And there's no, it's not like nobody knows what everybody else is doing. You kind of know, and you kind of, hear talk, people talk a little bit, but it's, you never fully know what's going on with the other, with the other manufacturers. So that has a lot to do with it.
Right. So you've got to be good at navigating all that.
Exactly.
Having in mind the different, and this is where there's probably a certain level of education that can be helpful. I always say, if you want to be really good at anything, go to law school. Like, I don't think I could take law school. I'd like to think I could, but I mean, you got to have a pretty wide, you have to be pretty brainy.
Yeah.
To be able to hold that level of information and navigation of instruments, tools, problems, which brings me to, I mean, how do you get up to speed on all this stuff? Are there in-house training programs? Did you learn it on the job?
No, it's literally learn as you go. I started out working for UPS Autogistics, and my first position that I did were basically like the one-off moves where you had to reach out to the carriers and try to find, specific carriers for these little oddball moves in the network, where vehicles were misshipped, or, we had some hot vehicle that needed to get to a dealership, for a product launch or something like that. And that's literally like, and then I was off and running, and then I, started doing fleet accounts, and then did some rail purchasing, managed the railroads at that point for UPS Autogistics, and then just literally learned as I went, and then I went and worked at Insight and went into like network design and kind of did metrics type of, just a variety of different things. So each job I've had, each different position, you basically, I'm not kidding you, you learn something new every single day when you work in vehicle logistics, whether it's, something new with the truck carrier, something different with the vessel carrier. There's so much out there that, it's very specific to a lot of times different locations or whatever the case may be, but you're constantly learning new things, new players.
Would you say that you worked for a few OEMs, or did you manage logistics for many OEMs? What I'm trying to find is where's the edge where it just became really a lot to deal with? The number of OEMs, the number of, you got truck versus rail versus port versus supply chain. What became the toughest area?
Yeah, so that's a loaded question. I mean, I've never worked, I've never had to deal with multiple OEMs at the same time. So it was always very specific to, with Autogistics, it was Ford Motor Company. When I worked for General Motors, it was just GM product. Working for Insight and Rubicon, it was basically Stellantis. So I guess the question, the answer to your question is it all depends on the carriers that you're dealing with, the level of BS that they maybe they're failing in multiple locations. That's when it becomes a lot. Or, it could be a rail carrier that's not providing empty equipment at the plants where, you've just got this volume building up at one certain location. The rail carrier doesn't, is not responsive. And then you're forced to deal with that kind of an issue. And then you have the manufacturer, the plants are screaming at you like, hey, you got to get this stuff out of here. And then you're out there seeking alternate means, like you got to get truck carriers in there to move the product when the rail can't handle it, or vice versa. So it all depends. Every unique situation can cause a headache in 5 minutes. And every single day that you think that you're going to have like a normal day in finished vehicle logistics, every single day you wind up doing 10 different things that you never thought you were going to be doing, just because of situations like that. So there's always something new. And it's almost like, I had an old, one of my old buddies used to describe it like this: finished vehicle logistics is like a bowl of Jello. So when you push it down here, it pops up over here. Or when you push it down in this location, it's going to pop up over here. So depending on how, where it's bubbling up that day, that's where you're literally just focusing all your resources and all your time on those different little issues. So, and every single day there's something new.
Okay, that's helpful. So, right, okay, you helped me out. It's not the number of OEMs at a time. It is managing all the various forms of logistics and who is the stopgap, who's the bottleneck. You said something important there. We know that when you're dealing with an OEM, the last thing you can do is stop the line, the production line. You cannot make them stop.
Absolutely.
Right? That's bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's going to be bad. Okay, so to make sure that they don't stop, because once they get moving, they got a lot happening, you have to make sure that, those vehicles are getting to either overflow lots or, right? Tell me more about what can stop the line at the OEM.
Well, that happens very, very rarely. What normally would happen is if it reaches that point, like even in the case where they were building when we had the chip shortages. So when we had the chip shortages, I do know that like Ford Motor Company was taking, I don't know if it was laptops or if they had like a tablet or something that they would literally plug into the dashboard. They found a workaround where they could drive a vehicle to like an offsite location, and they literally were parking it and then pulling that out, and then they would go put that chip into another vehicle, and then they just move vehicles, and then they were basically dead. Wherever they were storing them, you couldn't start them up because they didn't have the chip in them. But 99% of the time, they find ways to get vehicles off of the plant property, even if it's just a temporary solution where they're moving it to an offsite location. And that goes for new model launches. If there's a defect in a vehicle, it could be something as minor as like a paint defect, or it could be something like, even bigger, like a chip shortage. One way or another, they normally figure out a location that's central, kind of central to the plant where they can just park these vehicles over there. And then at least you've got them away from the plant. And then they can either be reworked or, whatever the case may be, or they might just be sitting there until there might be equipment shortages where that happens quite frequently too, where a rail carrier might not have enough empty equipment where you can load. So at a certain point, you reach a critical mass, and you've just got to ship vehicles, just get them off of the plant property as quickly as possible. So that happens more often than you think.
Right. So it's a I was going to say dance, symphony, an orchestration of all these parts coming in from all these places, and to make sure the vehicles are coming out.
Yeah.
And then you're managing, did you work in inbound logistics of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 supply as well as outbound, just outbound?
Yeah, it's just outbound. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so there's another, it's kind of it's just an unspoken thing, but it's 100%, there's a finite number of resources in outbound vehicle logistics, and in outbound vehicle logistics, the other issue is too, they spend so much money on inbound. You had mentioned inbound, so that just jogged my memory. They spend a ton of money on inbound because you want to just keep all these parts coming in because you just want to keep the assembly lines moving. What winds up happening is that in outbound, they tell you, all right, we need to cut back. Every year it was an unspoken rule. They wanted to cut 10% on outbound vehicle logistics. And so literally you've got finite resources. Your bosses are screaming at you like, hey, you got to cut costs. And at the same time, they're saying, get this stuff moving, get it moving. So there's finite resources. There's X amount of rail cars in the network. You only have so many to work with. And that's for all of North America. You only have so many truck carriers that that you're using. You're always trying to find new and different truck carriers that are available to use, but every single manufacturer is competing for all of the same resources, basically. And you're trying to keep your cost to a minimum. So that's where it gets very, very tricky.
Okay, that is really interesting because I did not know. You told me something I didn't know. I'm not going to run too far with it, but right, if your allocation spend is greater on the inbound parts, yet you have less on the outbound, which is interesting because now you add tariffs, so you're really raising the price of inbound parts, supplies. And you also made me think of I've had some conversations off the cuff about Jack Cooper and Proficient. And Proficient I don't have a lot of insight. I think we'll find out more later as that continues to go. But Jack Cooper, if Jack Cooper was having financial difficulties, they only got harder.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously there are lives at stake, and now there's that class action. But
yeah. I don't know a ton about Cooper. I know that they were having financial difficulties, and I know that they were the last. Well, not the last. There's Cassins. They're a union carrier, so there was that issue as well. So I don't know if you remember back. Yeah. They had Allied at a certain point just became so top heavy that it's the same kind of situation where it's like, what do you do at a certain point? You can only go back to the manufacturer so many times and say, hey, we need 5%, we need 8%, we need, this much more, or we're not going to be able to open our doors tomorrow. So I think it was a very similar situation from my understanding.
And the irony there is if they saw this problem growing, but didn't give 90-day notice to people they'd be terminating. Of course, they wouldn't want to. I'm not going to belabor, but man, what a tough spot.
Yeah.
And I will add, though, that I was thinking, I think RPM and Hansen and Adkins are both growing right now. And there are other companies, just like that Jell-O pushing them. I'm going to have that analogy in my head for a while. It's a good analogy. With the, there must be companies picking up that work that Jack Cooper had, and so I'm curious, what their growth is right now. I wonder when that finished vehicle logistics show is too.
Well, you know what I was curious about too, Jay, and I shame on me for not looking this up, but do you know if is it Moore? Moore is the non-union portion of Jack Cooper. Are they still around?
So my understanding is that they've been basically absorbed, equipment, folks dispersed ish. I don't know how much is left of that company.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, I can't really know because with Proficient Auto Logistics, each one of those 5 or 6 has maintained its own personality. So at what level of acquisition are they at? I don't know. Whereas a Certus, they just acquired Blue Star.
Yeah.
But they tend to really acquire and, turn turn it into a Certus.
Because at a certain point, you don't know too. Is it just, are they doing this on paper and then they're just going to pop up in 3 days and be more? You know what I mean? And then they just start taking new contracts and yeah. So
right. Well, what do they do now? Actually,
yeah, yep.
Maybe they can. I don't know. That's been a little while since that acquisition happened.
Yeah.
I would think at a certain point, I don't know if you can unwind it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I mean, and then the question of what happens with all those assets? What's the value of the assets?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty strange.
Because you've seen that in different industries too. Even since I worked for UPS, I'm trying to think of the old. I can't remember now. This was in the late '90s, maybe early 2000s, where the company basically was a union company, and they reopened their doors a month later as a non-union company, and kept most of the same employees, albeit disgruntled and paying them less. So just repainted their trucks, and that's how they survived. So
actually, you're making me also wonder, like what's happening with the UAW right now.
Yeah.
They had some big wins in 2024.
Yeah. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Especially I watched your segment on all the tariffs and just the way that things are.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna say this. I said on my news last Tuesday night that breaking news is now by the hour.
Yeah.
And I saw in other traditional media they were saying that too. And that's coincidence. But at least we can all agree now it is changing hourly. So if you work in finished vehicle logistics, how in the world do you make decisions now?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I'm running into. And I would say the one thing, so I've been out of work in the past just due to contractual issues or for one reason or another. Like if a contract ended up, and I'm out of work for a while, normally I can find something or I can talk to folks. Right now I'm trying, I'm reaching out to people and everyone's like this, like, we don't know, what the heck's going on tomorrow. We don't know what's happening now. You know what I mean? It's like, I talked to a person a week ago and they're like, yeah, we'll get back with you. We had a good interview with you, but we don't know what is going on at this point. So they're literally just in a holding pattern because they don't know, what is happening, and this was for a 3PL for General Motors. So it's
maybe since you said that you're paying that pain, I'm going to bring this up too. Maybe then the strategy is to do whatever you need to do, which is kind of what people are doing when it comes to eggs right now. You do whatever you need to do, and then there'll be this window of positivity that opens. Here, it's April 8th through 10th. Mm-hmm. I know it's pricey. This is the priciest show that I've ever been to. Huntington Beach, California. Actually, personally, I haven't been to this show. I've been to some of their other shows. But this is the big Finished Vehicle Logistics North America show for finished vehicle logistics executives. This is the show. And you go to automotivelogistics.media. And here, I'm going to put the link in the live chat. And then we're going to talk about used car shipping here for a second. Used car shipping logistics, because there's at least one person watching, either live on demand or listening to the podcast, thinking, Jay, this is not what I do. I don't work in finished vehicle logistics. I work in the secondary market, used vehicle shipping. In used vehicle shipping, I think you said this isn't something you've done a lot of, right? Like
not personally, yeah.
Right. When it comes to like mom and pop POV, or picking up one unit at an auction, taking it to either the auction. So let me ask you this: have you done much with secondary market auction moves?
No.
Right.
But I did used to work at New Boston. That was a location that, was mine when I worked for General Motors. And the there were several smaller carriers that worked for the broker that operated out of that location, and they would come and talk to me all the time, and they would say, how do I get my foot in the door with General Motors? Like I've got 3 trucks or I've got 4 trucks. The unfortunate thing is like that's just such a small amount of trucks, and you can't really get into a manufacturer. If you were working at a location, like in some small rail ramp in like Canada or out in the middle of nowhere, that might suffice. But yeah, working out of like a major location like in Detroit, that's not gonna cut it. Normally a carrier like that would have to go through a broker. You'd have to develop a relationship with a larger broker, and they would quite often, that's how they would start. And if you can build up to a size where you've got more trucks, then at that point maybe you've got a chance. But if you only have like 4 or 5 trucks or 3 trucks or 2, that's kind of tough at that point.
Now, New Boston is that a railhead? Is that a ramp?
Yeah, it's probably the biggest. It is. It's got to be the biggest in Michigan. It's huge. They ship 130 rail cars a day. I mean, they ship a ton of volume per day. They have a lot that comes in. They have multiple manufacturers that ship through there, like all the Detroit manufacturers ship out of there. Several different truck carriers ship out of that location, ship out of and into New Boston. It's a big rail ramp.
Okay, 130 cars, bi-levels, tri-levels.
Yeah, mostly bi-levels.
Right.
Yeah, I
Bi-levels.
don't know if there's the only tri-level product that might ship anymore would be Mustangs, and I don't know how many of those are being produced. So
Right. So bi-level is a 2-story enclosed rail car, right?
Yep. Yeah. So yes. Yep. So there. Yeah. I guess you've never worked in finished vehicle logistics. So
See,
yeah, there's bi-level.
I know enough, but I haven't. Right.
Yeah.
And most guys, like, okay, so here's what I was going to say. A lot of guys, and when I say guys, I mean owner-operator car haulers that have like a 4-car, 5-car, sometimes a 9-car, but many 9 cars seem to be company drivers. Many are owner-operators. I never want to piss anybody off. But there are, if you want to get into OEM and you've been hauling secondary market, auction, and dealer, and POV, I always thought, well, the way to go is to work for some brokers that have those onesies, twosies, and prove that you can do a great job picking up at the plant or the railhead and doing the it's not EDI, it's the what I said, splat charts. What's that inspection called? When you have
they just do you do your vehicle, they just do a vehicle inspection, and you have to have whatever the technological.
But it's more in depth than a used vehicle inspection.
Yes. Yep.
Right, you have to identify the section and the depth, and it's just pretty intricate. You can't have a zipper on your jacket.
Right. Yeah.
Right, all this stuff.
There's specifics for each, and it's funny that every manufacturer has their shipping manual that they abide by. They're all very similar, but it's still funny because they're all different. It's like you'd think it would be like a universal thing where every single manufacturer would have the exact same specs, but they don't. So they're pretty similar, and they don't all use the same. The EDI is not the same for each manufacturer either. They're all different. That brings up, you had this. We talked about this as well too. As far as like the technological differences between Ford, GM, and Stellantis, for instance, their legacy systems are still in use. Those are what they used like in the late 80s, early 90s, and they're all DOS systems. That's what they use for like their payment. And so the logistics, this is another thing probably they don't want to know, is that their logistics systems are built off of those transactions. So the EDI transactions, for instance, like when a vehicle is shipped out of a railhead, when the truck carrier picks it up, that triggers, the trip for that segment of the logistics piece. So that means that the truck carriers picked it up, and then when they deliver it to the dealership, that's when it's done. So that's how their time stamps are measured in the logistics world for finished vehicle logistics. It's the same for everything. It's the same with the vessels. It's the same with the railroads. So when a rail is loaded, that's when the timestamp is, submitted to the ancient system that's being used at whichever manufacturer, and then when it's unloaded, that's when that time is captured for the finished portion of that leg of the journey. So, yeah, it's pretty antiquated.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I don't want you to know.
But no, well, here's the thing: is that technology changes whether you want it to or not. And I have seen, again, at some of the automotive logistics, finished vehicle logistics shows, because they have global supply chain. There's import export in Baltimore, and there are companies, large logistics technology companies, that they'll give you a demo and then talk about geofencing, and you can see fleets as they're leaving the plant, as they're entering another zone. And I would think at some point, that's going to filter into a legacy system. But it is understandable that, on one hand, logistics, I think they call it the last mile. Well, it is also the last mile of technological innovation.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
that it all kind of lends it. We talked about how they don't want to spend an additional dime on anything for finished vehicle logistics. That's a big reason why they're just like, you would ask them like, hey, this system is ancient. Can we, at least get this updated? And it's like, nah, we're not doing that. It's like, we're not going to spend another nickel on this stuff.
And you know what? Let's go to the consumer. Does the consumer want to keep spending more money?
Right, right, exactly.
So, I mean, you do have to, you have to choose where you're going to have your financial outlay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We talked about tech. We were talking about the rail. I think the rail stuff is really interesting. I'm always like you said, New Boston. Okay. In secondary market, we don't know the railheads. We don't know the ports. I'm always trying to learn as much as I can about those. Like in my news, I had a Volkswagen ocean vessel at Freeport, Texas. And half my audience was like, I'm out of here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, nothing against them, but that's not what we talk about.
Right.
But it to me, it should be part of the basic education of whether it's finished vehicle logistics or secondary market used car shipping. We should know these things. And here's what I wanted to also add to the mix. Just as there's always each automaker has their own EDI, their vehicle inspection standards. Bad news. The owner-operator car haulers, I think that community converts and changes at least once a decade. So whoever knew your system 5 years ago, there's a great chance they're not doing it anymore.
Right.
And you have to teach a whole new set.
Yeah.
It was actually one of my assumptions in creating this channel that we would all come to realize we need to get more regular education out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be a priority.
It's not. And there are manufacturers that do it better than others, where they will just have like a like a town hall, and they'll have, regularly scheduled meetings where, you've got their quality and claims, in finished vehicle actually telling the truck carriers like, okay, this is what we expect, and this is what, these are the systems that we use, and this is what you need to have the capability to submit this kind of EDI. And, there's better manufacturing processes at different manufacturers than there are at others. Because, it seems like some of them, it's just like you're kind of at a loss, unless the truck carriers are actually asking like, hey, we don't understand this stuff. Because I'm sure a lot of them You do your tech reviews when you bring on a new truck carrier, and you might review it then, but then it's like, nobody's talked to us for 3 months, and we're, we're trying to feel our way through this stuff where, there needs to be more communication. You're absolutely right.
Well, I think it's a real advantage for an organized asset-based carrier with 50 plus trucks, because they have I'm assuming they have a coordinated internal, make sure all the drivers know this about our client.
Yeah.
Because in the random owner operators, they don't know. There's a carrier showing up right now at a plant just mucking it up.
Yeah.
It has no paperwork, paper tags, zippers everywhere, scratching stuff, and then I'll see these emails that get sent out like carriers are reading their emails.
Yeah.
No, they're not. And
right.
So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It is. You're absolutely right. And how do I describe it? It's very, pick up the phone and call somebody. It's not like, nobody's reading an email. It's normally when stuff like that happens, you've got to either get in their face, or you're like calling someone, you're calling 3 different people to tell them like, hey, this is what's happening right now. We need some kind of action. And then,
and then it's after the fact, and you've already,
it's after the fact. It's very
bananas.
It's very people centric. Like, finished vehicle logistics will never be, AI. I'm not worried about AI ever taking over anything in finished vehicle logistics. I don't think it could.
Hey, question from the live chat. Aaron W asks, do OEMs still work with pure brokerages without assets? I know Acertus back in the day started with 0 trucks, but now they have some. Actually, I don't know how many trucks Acertus has, but I think essentially, do OEMs have some non-asset brokerages that they kind of have in their mix?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Why is that? Why would that be?
Just because I think that there's different locations. A lot of it might be regional. There might be different locations where you just don't have as big of a presence of a larger truck carrier, or, for instance, one carrier might be utilized by one manufacturer or 2, and then you've got, a third manufacturer going into that same region. They need to find, everybody needs an option to get their volume delivered. So like I said, there's a finite number of resources. What my job a lot of times is that I would look at different locations. There's a juggling act, and it kind of lends into this very question where, like, for instance, in Cottage Grove, which basically was St. Paul, Minneapolis, there wasn't a huge presence for, truck carriers in that region. And so what would wind up happening is that you might have 3 different brokers that would operate out of that location. Those 3 different brokers would, you'd find out after the fact that, okay, these 3 different brokers are operating out of here, but they're all using the same base of, mom and pop carriers. And so you're basically like, you're trying to scramble every single day to get your stuff delivered. But as it turned out, they were the same carriers that were moving for all 3 of these different companies, because they were just working off of 3 different job boards. So that kind of thing happens too.
So this is a good time. I'll say this because I think some of my friends that work at brokerages that used to be my friends, meaning like I think they feel like I kind of ding them a lot, but I think brokering is a tough gig because you're playing from the same pool of carriers.
Yes.
Now you may have different ways of doing business and more phones or better people or whatever, but all the carriers are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And most of those carriers are new to the business because many of the good ones, they got out, sold, whatever it is. And so brokering is a tough gig. But I do know that some brokers seem to be very good at getting things moved. I'm not sure maybe, and this is where they say it's all about relationships. Maybe they really do know. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know what they know, and they're
So
not going to,
yeah,
tell me. Yeah, but
I will say too, and this is, it happens every single day, where we kind of talked in the past too, where let's say you've got 3 different brokers that work out of one location. One contract was negotiated by one manufacturer, and then you've got the other. Let's say it's all the big 3 that are basically delivering to the same geographic locations. One of them is ultimately going to have probably a better contract negotiated where they're going to pay more than the other 2. And so what ultimately winds up happening every time is that whoever pays more, it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's whoever's going to pay more to get those vehicles delivered. That's who's going to get delivered first.
And right there, it would seem that should be the no-brainer easy part.
Yeah.
But I think what's happened is some companies work harder to take a bigger piece of the broker pie. I don't know why. I don't have the paperwork. I don't have the memos. But me and Sue is my co-host on my Thursday show. There are, and I knew this when I was dispatching, there are some companies, the moment I hear their name, I think better to work for.
That could be true. Yeah.
And because there's usually more money.
Yeah.
And they seem to be more understanding.
Yeah.
And they seem to be more personable.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for whatever reason. I mean, I do know there's companies that are better, maybe they're better at getting their payments out, quickly. And, there's that kind of issues. It could be just a better company to work for in general. But I would say on the whole, it's normally the company that pays the most. Those are the folks that get their vehicles delivered first. So that's where they start. That's the pecking order. Obviously, whoever pays more gets preference.
What's also interesting is the logistics industry continues to change. In the news this week, Carpool Logistics, I think, got a $12 million investment. Carpool Logistics is not a well-known logistics company, but yet they are. They made the news today. Then we just, again, Certus acquired Blue Star Movers. So it is an ever-moving marketplace of difficulty. The jello is nonstop moving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe that's the good news. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Job security.
And kind of back to Aaron W.'s question. So there's definitely opportunity for brokers to be used at different locations. In that example, my strategy would be, find a carrier maybe that is a brokerage service in a location where, let's say that it's a not owner operator. It's like Cassins or somebody who owns all their own equipment. That's a perfect opportunity, if you're a different manufacturer, to get a broker service in there, because, you've basically got 2 sets of drivers working for 2 different manufacturers. So.
And I would think, all right, here's an assumption, that an automaker would never want just one delivery logistics company, but would want to diversify their portfolio and have multiple.
Right.
Am I right?
Yep. Unless it's a very, like a rinky-dink little location, like in Montana or something like that, where you don't have very many vehicles going in there. But yeah, normally you're absolutely right.
I feel like I've kept you a long time, even though this was your idea. But no, I mean, this has really been great. And what I don't want to do, I don't want to jump the shark and get to a portion of the show where now we're no longer benefiting. Right. I want to end on a high note.
Sure. Absolutely.
This has really been, Mark enjoyed it, Aaron enjoyed it, and then there's some lurkers out there that never say anything. No, but this has really been great. Okay, if somebody wants to contact you, how do they do that?
Sure. I mean, you can, I think my email address is out there.
I'm going to put it in the live chat.
You can put my email address out there, or my resume, or I'm fine.
I'm just going to put your email address, amc1510@gmail.com.
Correct.
That's your email address. Aaron Clark, 20 years experience in finished vehicle logistics. If you want to know more, hit rewind. Be kind and hit rewind. I mean, we just did like a 40-minute, maybe 50-minute, probably 45-plus-minute video resume, which I honestly think that's a format. With as much as is happening right now, the challenge is, can all 45-minute video resumes be as good as this one?
Yeah.
This was really good, Aaron.
Thanks, Jay. I really appreciate you having me on. I really do.
You're cool, dude. I'm glad you contacted me. Best of luck. Keep me posted. Let me know how I can help. And you can share links from this show. Everybody, share the links.
You got it. All right. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks a lot. Have a great night.
All right, you too. All right, and that's a cut. Okay. Now I will go back to this here. Yeah, you can go to, since it's relevant, go to automotivelogistics.media. You can learn more about their finished vehicle logistics events. They've got articles. You can actually learn a lot at automotivelogistics.media. It is a global logistics audience, so you'll be networking with folks in Spain and Europe and other transcontinental destinations. All right, that was great. I want to thank Aaron Clark for messaging me in LinkedIn. We had a conversation, and I think that was only like a few weeks ago, and then we did the show tonight. So just one prep call. If you're interested in seeing how you can leverage ATI, send me an email, autotransportintel@gmail.com, autotransportintel@gmail.com. I'm not going to change it now. There's really no point. But it's ATIAutobusiness.com is the website. I want to thank Murphy Auto Transport Services. I want to thank Superflow Systems. Thank you, Mark. I want to thank 925, latest new YouTube channel member. My name is Jay. I do this show periodically. Tuesday nights is the big show. Thursday is our logistics show. Shows here, shows there. Go around, new, used. Actually, you know what I thought was really neat tonight is that it is hard to put together a finished vehicle logistics show. So even though it was an OpenToWork finished vehicle logistics show, clearly Aaron knows a lot. If you're looking to pick up somebody pretty amazing that's available, Aaron Clark, his email address is amc1510@gmail.com. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll see you again. There's no show Thursday, and just gonna take it on the flippity flip. So here comes the car hauler, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot, everybody. Good night. Yep.